I love it. Okay, let's keep going. I know we have a lot to get to today. Training and events. Okay, so next Wednesday is the final one of the year, right, Robert Bob?
Sure.
So final one of the year, command your business, bring your computer. Come in, get to work now. What I will say is this is a fabulous time to come in, clean out your database, like get it taken care of to close out the year. So come in, that's what you're doing with Broker Bob. You're getting your business set up for 2025. Come. That's all I'll say about that. You should be here. That's gonna be on Wednesday at 11. So next Wednesday at 11, come for that. What else we got coming up? Mondays with Mark. That is available on Mondays. You guys, just so you know, he sees all the transactions that go through our market center. Come, it's open session, so he will have a topic, but you can also come and ask questions. So if there's something you're going through or dealing with, this is a great way to come in, meet with Mark, and he will let that conversation go where it needs to. So Mondays with Mark, that's on Zoom and available. Holiday party tomorrow. Anything to say, Bridget? Anything else that we got on there?
Couple of things. First of all, I have to say thank you so much to the Culture Committee. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't here today. They're either traveling or doing whatever, but Claudine has been with me for probably 9 of the 10 years I've been culture chair. Amy Bloom, probably at least 4 or 5. And Kathy Jackson, who has been instrumental in getting a lot done. So I just want to say thank you to the Culture Committee. I also have to say thank you to Ariana, who got voluntold to be our leadership chair for our office. So this is so in regards to tomorrow, I don't want anybody in here to freak out, but I did hear when I was walking in that some of our agents in this office are already watching YouTube videos on how to make the best gingerbread house. So, if you haven't done any research, you might want to step up your game. Remember, you can bring things for the gingerbread house if you want, but you have to share with everybody, not just your team. We will also be having a poker tournament, so if you want to sign up, I don't know if there's any slots left, but double check with Vinny. He's going to be running that. There will be prizes for gingerbread poker and ugly sweater contest. And then we also have a photo booth. So there's a lot going on. We have an obscene amount of food coming. So I hope you come between 3 and 6. If you can't make the whole time, just make sure you stop by and see everybody. I know a lot of people are really excited, and we're going to have a really good time. So I will see you all tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Thank you.
We're having an ugly sweater contest, right?
Yes, ugly sweater, yes, tomorrow. Yes. Okay, so if you have, it's not Wi-Fi, but if you have your cell phone connection and you scan this QR code, Escrow Partners wants to ask you one quick question. So we are looking ahead at 2025, and usually, I don't know about you, I'm an agent, you're an agent. Agents like merch, they like things sometimes. I like things. So if you would like to decide what we're going to order, you can vote. So give that a scan if you would like to vote, or come find me afterwards. We'll show you the slide. Maybe you want a notepad, maybe you want a pen. Let us know, right? So this is a gift for you. You let us know what you want. That's what this QR code is for. Find me if you didn't scan it. I'll give you guys a set to scan. Step out of the way. And then keep your phones out. Okay, so and then on the next slide, that's a gift for you. We thought a gift for us. So this is a review. If you have worked with Escrow Partners and you have something wonderful to say, we've been hearing fantastic things, and you guys tell me, which I absolutely love, but we would love to have you leave that review so that all the other agents out there can hear about that wonderful experience as well. So I will also have this slide with me if you need to get any of these after the meeting. And then, Christine, did you have something that you wanted to recognize this week? Was there a new escrow that you wanted to do? New breaking?
I have a whole bunch of things, and let me just say how grateful I am for you guys. I know I'm the new kid on the block, and I appreciate everybody welcoming me with your open arms, and definitely putting your trust into me with your transactions. It means a lot. Of course, Sam and Yanni, my #1 supporters so far, has been absolutely amazing. Thank you guys. Just closed the deal with Alicia. Thank you so much. That was a great transaction. Vinny's been absolutely amazing in opening escrows with me as well. Maria Pena, and then I just opened up one with Joe Acosta. So I'm really excited about that. do to help assist you guys, please feel free to give me a call. I know, again, I'm new around here, new face, a new person, but I've been in the business a very long time, and I promise you guys, it'll be a great transaction.
Awesome, thank you, Christine.
Yes, thank you.
Meet with Christine yet or Nicole, they're just down the hall in Suite 201, so definitely go check them out. And what else we got coming up? Oh, Alicia.
Sorry. Nice. The best broken record ever for Sam and Yanni always being on here. They closed their first listing of Sam. They actually captured this one, you guys. So that's amazing. And they're going to be
So I was asked to share a little bit of the story, because it's been, I think, about 2.5 years now. Yanni joined us first and did a class that I was running called Discover Your Destiny.
Yeah.
And the young woman who showed up on that 12-week course was shy, had very little self-confidence, would not participate, wanted to be kind of invisible, was scared to death every time I made her talk. And over that 12 weeks, I think it opened up a lot of different things for you. And now, I don't know, well, was that your first, like, you weren't even licensed yet, were you?
Yeah, I was with the.
She's crying. You don't have to cry.
Well, you were my first big brokerage. I was with a single person, but he was COVID and he wasn't doing anything. So he said, "I'm not gonna do anything," and I started looking for some other brokerages. And Stephen. So yeah, it's my first brokerage.
Okay. And that, by the way, that course is very intense. It's a deep personal dive. It makes you kind of go back to all the stuff that has traumatized you in life. And you did it willingly. And the growth that you experienced through that was awesome, because then your husband saw it and saw the growth, right? Saw the growth in her and decided to leave a very secure, long-term, lifetime career and jump into real estate. And to see the amount of success they've had is incredible.
Yes.
So congratulations. And what's your anniversary date?
March. One is in September, one is in March. So
March
Okay.
is royalty, so September is your company dollar.
Okay, so you did that fast.
Wow.
That capped in less than 4 months. So for those of you, there's a lot of things that I don't know, so you may be relatively new. What that means is from now till September 1st, they get 100% of the commission.
Yeah.
All right?
Get a picture with your dress.
Yeah, you get.
I'm on Friday.
Nice sweater.
You should have
That's your brother, sorry.
Okay, at the count of 3, okay? Hold on. 1, 2, 3.
You're like, that could have been wrong. It's very small. We're just hoping we turn in the right direction. Okay. Congratulations. Well done.
One job.
Oh, cool.
You're up.
How are you, Eddie? So this guy yesterday went and got recertified for the San Diego Housing Commission. There's a pretty awesome down payment assistance program I'm going to tell you guys about. But first I'll tell you about my story. So I was in a hurry to get the kids to school, and the wife had to go and get the other kid to the hospital, and we were scrambling around. She's okay, we just had some tests done. But needless to say, I inadvertently wasn't paying attention to the directions for the event. and I've gotten certified with them like 3 or 4 times in the past. I know where the building is downtown. So I got in the car, sat through traffic for about 45 minutes, got down there, parked, paid for parking, walked up there about 5 minutes early, and I'm going to take the elevator upstairs, and the security guard's like, hey buddy, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going upstairs to the class. I gotta do my certification again. He goes, well, I don't know if there's a class, the elevators don't open till 9, and there's nobody really up there, so I don't know where you're going. And I'm like, well, I swear this is the San Diego Housing Commission, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, but, and then I looked at the email and it said online. So needless to say, I was on time and got online and sat here and popped on this Zoom and watched the whole thing. But so anywho, it's a great program, you guys. I know I'm going to take a couple more than 2 minutes. We're sorry, Broker Bob, but listen, under 80% AMI in San Diego, for a single person, that would equate to $84,900. That person can get up to $125,000 in down payment assistance, up to 25%. Yeah, it's huge. Plus, you can get a 4% closing costs up to 10 grand. All right. Granted, I did the numbers, and if you have no other debt and you have really good credit, you can get a $500,000 condo. Okay. There's a lot of other parameters. It's a 32-page program that we have to read through, and there's a lot of other nuances to the program, but just know that it exists. So just because someone says that they're saving money for down payment, hey, I might have a solution for you, okay? They may still be able to buy into something. Now, it goes off of household income, too. So if you have anybody over the age of 18, that counts, and they could get disqualified from the program if they make too much money. So just make sure, let's get them having a conversation with me so that we can go through and figure everything out and see if they qualify. So that's for the city of San Diego. Anything that starts with a 921 zip code, you guys. The county of San Diego has something similar, up to 22% down payment. These are all, there's no payments on these down payment assistance programs, but they are required to be paid back if you ever refinance, if you ever move out, if you ever sell the place. Anything. You take out a HELOC, you got to pay it back. So just be mindful of that, all right?
Interest,
What's that?
payback plus interest?
Playback plus interest. If you default and you create, anyways, 3% simple interest, they create it. But there are nuances. Again, like if you go and rent it out and they catch you, they'll charge you 10%. So just be careful of something like that, right? And there are purchase price limitations. Lynn?
On the first one that you described
Mhm.
for San Diego, the city of San Diego, is that a payback? What's
They're
the-
all deferred until some event triggers it, like a refinance, a sale, second loan, a transfer of title, anything like that would require a payback. But otherwise, it's deferred until years is up. They also have programs for the county of San Diego, like I just said. The city of Chula Vista has its own separate program, up to 22%, max 120 grand. And the city of El Cajon also has one, up to $150,000, 25%. And again, the income limits change depending on how many people are in the household. So I know it's a lot of information. There's a lot more information. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wanted to give you kind of the 30,000-foot view, but you guys, I've always been, had these programs in our back pocket. We have more with the state, but just know that you have them at your disposal. If you come across somebody, don't put them aside just because they're saving money for down payment. Cool? Thank you guys. Happy holidays.
Property pitches. Do we have any property pitches today? Okay. If you think of it later and you forgot that you listed something, go ahead and put that on the Facebook page. Otherwise, we'll bring up Broker Bob.
You can clap. All right, so we're gonna end the year with new forms. Sorry, guys. I sat in on the hour-long video yesterday. I wanted to pull my eyes out because here's where we are. I want to pitch this. Next Tuesday, the 17th, 1 o'clock, I'm teaching the value class this time I'm doing the buyer broker side. So you should come to that if you're gonna work with buyers next year, because you're really gonna need to nail this down. And so we'll be teaching that. Again, all this stuff will be emailed out to you. This is in the PDF that has the link to the, the hashtag broker advice I put on the Facebook page. It's the link for everything that I've ever put on there. So that's just a little helpful thing. Also, December 17th is when the new forms are going to be updated in zip forms. So what does that mean?
You need to re-download them into our template.
Yeah, well, you're going to log in, and for the people that aren't here, they're going to be, wait a minute, this is different. Here's a stat. Did you know 79% of all members of SCR or brokerages with SCR have 10 or less agents in them? That's an interesting stat of people out there who don't know what the hell they're doing. Because I just got off a risk management call with all the top brokers, and we discussed this. Our whole mission is to educate the other brokers out there because they're not doing it. So you guys have to be the wiser ones moving forward. 64 total forms. 7 new.
Oh my gosh.
5 are related to transaction, 2 are related to property management, which you guys don't do. 21 substantive revisions to transactional forms. So now that we did the NAR changes in, what was it, August?
Yeah.
Was when it changed?
Yes.
Now they've realized in practice, well, how do we make this better? So that's kind of what they did. They bettered the forms.
That's crazy.
And then 28 form revisions that don't require new learning. So clap to that. You just have to worry about really the 7 new forms and the 21 substantive revisions of the existing forms. So let's get into this because I have a lot of stuff in here. We probably won't get to all of it, and I'll try and be as informative as I can. However, what I'd like you to do is I have a link in here too to the risk management section of PAR that they will put the video up that of the class I attended yesterday, and you can go re-listen to it. I highly recommend you do it. It's not up yet. I just looked. I was hoping that it was there, but it's not. So the big one, the residential purchase agreement. This is rarely used, but it's the increased deposit. So we're going to skip over that because rarely will you put an increased deposit on one of your transactions. If you do, see me. I'll walk you through it. Okay, so here is the RPA. So they've changed a few things on it. I need to be on this side, sorry. Sorry, I gotta sit here. Because I can't read it over there. I'm getting a glare off the window. So what they've done on this, new title, the sell payment to cover buyer expenses and costs. So remember the form SPBB?
Yes.
That's going away. Okay? So they're going to move that into the RPA, and they put it into the grid. So let's just review G1 is seller credit to buyer for closing costs. So what is G1? Who wants to take a crack on what that means? Or tell me what G1 means. Anybody? Emily?
Just regular closing cost credit.
Regular closing cost credit, right? It has nothing to do with buyer broker compensation. It's only closing costs. So if the seller is going to give closing cost credit to a buyer, that's where it's stipulated. Nothing to do with broker compensation. G2, additional seller credit terms, does not include buyer broker compensation. So what's additional seller credit terms? Rate buy down, prepay HOA, prepay taxes, different than a credit. Okay? Clarity on that? Got that?
No, I'm so confused.
Me too.
So if it's, like if the buyer is getting credit back, what happens if the percent for the compensation for the broker is more than their closing costs?
They're unrelated.
Possible? Is that possible?
That's unrelated.
Oh, okay.
The lenders aren't looking at buyer broker compensation as part of the closing.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought you said that this replaced the SBRP.
Well, the SPDB is going away, and it's being put into the RPA, but 3G3 is where the SPBB language now is.
Okay.
So that's the broker compensation.
Instead of an extra form, basically, they're putting it.
We up there yet? Got it?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. So then 3G3 is the SPBB language put now into the RPA. So this is where you discuss seller's payment for the buyer's obligation to compensate the buyer's broker. And then what they added when their seller agrees to pay out of the transaction proceeds X percentage or a dollar amount toward the obligation of buyer to compensate buyer's broker. And then this was added. Buyer affirmatively represents that at the time this offer is made, buyer has a written agreement with the buyer's broker that is valid, covers the property, and provides for compensation for no less than the actual amount stated. Bridget, why you look confused? You okay? So, what is happening with people that have had listings and have gotten offers when you get the offer, the SPBB and the BRBC sent over? Kareem?
The BRBC had the same date as the SPBB.
What we're seeing out there is some agents are not doing the BRBC up front. And so what this language is stating that there's an active BRBC in place that's valid. So here's a best practice if you're a listing agent and you get asked that the buyer wants you to compensate them for buyer broker, what you should counter back is that you want to see the BRBC. So buyer to in the counter will deliver the BRBC in that counter, effective like within 2 hours. Because here's why. What we feel is that what is being asked in the offer and what the BRBC amount is different. And then what could come from that means is if you are a listing agent and you're not clarifying that the active BRBC, let's say it's at 3%, but it really is at 2%, but they ask for 3 in the offer, there's a 1% difference, right?
Yeah.
Your fiduciary responsibility to that seller, the seller can come back and say, well, wait a minute. I paid 3%. I found out that they only had 2% in their BRBC. I didn't have to pay that.
No.
They can't get it anyway though, right?
That's not the point. You as the listing agent have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the seller. So we just talked about this on the SCR risk management call, and it had happened with one broker already. That the seller was pissed off that they found out that the BRBC for the buyer on their listing was less than what they requested in the offer. So just be cautious with that. My best practice is to make sure you ask for the BRBC to be delivered to you to accept the offer. Bridget.
So if it's the reverse and say they signed for 3% and you negotiated, or they put on here 2.5, it's a non-issue.
It's a non-issue, right. You can ask for less. You just can't ask for more than what's in the BRBC. John.
I feel like I remember previously we were told that we're not allowed to request a copy of the deal.
Well, things change.
Okay.
sharing it on page 16 or 7, it depends how
That's 2 months.
It's gone now.
Okay,
John,
that page is
also
gone.
asking for 4%.
The SPBC is gone.
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about it, one
We
page,
don't talk
where
about
things
that.
change, you were supposed to send.
Now you're going to request the whole BRBC. You asked for the whole BRBC.
Is it appropriate that we put it in the MLS in the confidential remarks with the listing?
Put what in?
To include the BRBC with offers?
You can put that in confidential remarks, but I would call the MLS rules and ask them if that's okay to put that.
Or just get slapped on the wrist.
This is all evolving. All evolving. Great.
So Robert, you were mentioning asking for it in the counter, but what if they submit it, like in this situation, with the RPA? So we already had it and it was both the same dates.
If you got it in the RPA, great.
Yeah, okay.
But remember,
But I know that's wrong, but
yeah.
I just won't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand one thing. If the BRBC says 3%.
Just one thing?
Keep going. And the DRBC says 3%, right?
Uh-huh.
But they asked for 2% compensation in the offer.
Mhm.
Why is that, what's?
Well, that's between the buyer's agent and the buyer, because maybe the buyer's agent said, hey, I'll go ask and see if I can get 2% on this,
Yeah,
but you still owe that extra percent, or I'll forego it and do a modification of terms on this one property and reduce my commission to 2% instead of you having to kick in the additional 1%.
What you're really looking for is just that the amount in the VRBC is not lower than what you are asking for the seller. That's the only issue.
Can't get more than what's in the DRDC.
yeah, right.
You can get less though.
Yeah, you can get less than.
So now, Christine, this is what I sent you in the email today. Now they've changed the brokers, agents, and compensation where there's more clarity. The whole thing about this whole section is to reaffirm the buyer's promise regarding the contract with the buyer broker. That's what this section, this language is about broker compensation. I won't go into too much, but basically third party should now be requesting not only the VRBC just to confirm, but also the RLAs. Because now you guys will have a responsibility for that. And you can make that as a standard for your office.
Okay.
And then here's the actual, it separates compensation statements for buyer and seller. So now the escrow will do a net sheet for each buyer and each seller based upon the compensation that's being offered in the contract. Okay? This is more escrow stuff, so I won't bore you with that one. This one, page 15 and 16, this cleans up, this just kind of cleans up the entity name. So this is on the RPA. Yes.
Can you go back for a second, because I just want to make a point about this. Not all escrow companies are this tied into the actual real estate brokerage side, and not very few escrow companies have the card forms to know what is going on. So we do, because Robert is an officer of the escrow company, but be careful. Your escrow companies, if they're outside, may not be aware of these changes.
Well, one of the reasons why they brought this in was because every escrow company was operating differently. Some were asking, some weren't. There was confusion. Can they ask? Can they not ask? So this cleared that up.
As long as they know about it.
Yeah. But still use escrow partners.
Yes.
But this cleaned up, so what's an entity?
Trust,
Right. And so when you craft an offer in the name of a buyer, what's the first question you should ask that buyer?
Are you purchasing as an individual or as an entity?
Perfect. That way it makes it a lot easier when you get into escrow. You don't have to do extra paperwork on the back end. Do you know what that means when someone says they want to use an entity though? What is your responsibility to check?
That they're the legally authorized signer for that.
Right, so how do you find that with a trust?
Get a copy of the trust.
Well, they don't usually want to give you the entire trust, but
Signature page.
the signature page. So within the trust, it's like the abstract or the authority of the trust. It's one page. They typically don't want to give you the whole trust, but you can get that one page to show who has authority to sign.
And escrow may still ask them for the full trust, but that's.
Oh, they're going to. Title will want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we only need to get it.
But that is your responsibility to get that before you write the offer, if they say, we want to put it into a trust or an LLC or because why?
You don't want to get into the deal and then find out you can't close because
They
other
can't buy
people
it.
need to have been signing things and they weren't, and it's a mess.
And this happens a lot when it's an entity buyer and seller that we find out. Christine, how many times have you found out that you get into escrow and the person that signed the contract doesn't have authority to, how many times? A lot.
Quite a bit, actually.
And then your whole deal goes south. I have an agent that used to work in this office. He's somewhere in Kensington now. Big agent, great agent. Love him to death. It cost him $10,000 because he had to appease the buyer because something happened where he didn't find that the person had the authority to sign on behalf of somebody. That's a big cost. But to make the person happy, go away. So $10,000. So make sure you find the person. So with a corporation, it's a
Articles.
No, it's a corporate resolution stating that John Fields has the authority to sign on behalf of the corporation. And with an LLC, it's basically what's in the LLC, who's the managing?
Managing member, it should be in the operating agreement.
Yeah, and it's one page? Yeah, so it's just one page. You don't need the whole thing, you just need to show that you're the right person. So really entities, they just kind of cleaned that up. They kind of made B2 entities full name, because sometimes you get these really big, long names, and you just can't fit it in. For those of you guys that, when you fill out an entity, sometimes it doesn't fit, right?
Yeah.
So now they've expanded it to make the big, long names fit. And then there's a name for contract purposes only, which is usually short. And then, of course, who is the entity signer name?
I like that. That's
Yeah.
good.
Okay, buyer representation and broker compensation. On E1, what they did, B1. So AB 2992, what is that? We just discussed it last month, the risk management.
The law requiring
AB Assembly Bill 2992.
Is it the balcony thing?
No, Assembly Bill 2992. January, happens January.
Oh, you have to
That
have
was
the
state law.
RBC signed before showing home.
So it's state law that you have to have a buyer broker agreement. If you don't have one and you write an offer, you're going to jail. In John Fields, I will not bail you out.
Would that have been in this situation, Robert, that we were talking about? Would that, if this were to have happened in January, is that?
Well, I'm sure his broker would be really upset. But what they've done is because now AB 2992 also covers more than single family residential. It covers commercial. It covers industrial, vacant land, commercial ticks, and other stuff. So what they've done is they put a box in there that says, or if check, SFR, that's single family residential, is excluded from this. So really, this is going to be used for commercial agents as well. So Nikki's not here, but if she had a commercial person, she has to get one of these now for all of her commercial people, and she can check that box if they're not buying a house. Okay? And then E1, they added the see attached broker created compensation schedule. Some brokers statewide create their own, so they added it for that. It really doesn't apply to us, so it won't apply to you because you're using the BRBC. And then F5, cancellation. So cancellation rights. So non-exclusive cancellation effective upon receipt or X days after receipt. So remember in the BRBC, and whether it's exclusive or non-exclusive, if it's exclusive and you cancel it, how many days do you have? 30. Judy gets the gold star today, 30. But what they discovered was sometimes 30 days is too long. So you can shorten it to be like maybe 5 days or 10 days, but you can't go above 30. You know what I'm talking about there?
That's just for when it's effective. 5 days after, 30 days after.
Yeah, if they enter into an escrow on a broker-involved property.
Oh, yeah.
Did I explain this one? Did you guys get this one? Y'all looking glazed?
No.
Want to make sure. You don't get it?
Well, Susan's having a challenge understanding it, so.
Well, this is when you cancel, if you're gonna cancel it. And then G2, buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay broker. So sorry, I'm taking some time to reply because I'm looking at this because I just learned it yesterday and I'm trying to remember all of it. So what this section was changed to, buyer's broker obligation to represent a buyer in a transaction is contingent upon a seller's agreement to pay the amount of compensation. So remember this little box right here? I said if you check this, what that means is the buyer you're working with, if they want to go look at a property and they realize they can't pay your compensation and the seller's not willing to check, if you check this, what happens is you move out of the transaction and the buyer moves forward without you.
Unrepresented, right?
Unrepresented.
We could work with listing agent.
But that's not the way it reads, though. It says like no agent, right? It says like by themselves.
Yeah, by themselves.
Yeah. Which is weird.
So if both the buyer and the seller refuse to pay you after you've gotten an offer accepted, they can just kick you out of the transaction. even after your offer.
If you check that box.
Never checked that box.
Exactly.
Why would?
Well,
I mean, you don't get paid if you don't check that box, you have to work the transaction.
why would you, where are instances where you would probably have to check that box?
If you already determined they don't have money.
If you've determined they don't have the money to pay.
Do y'all wanna work for free?
No.
Alright, so check the damn box.
So check the box. Why is
Is there
that?
anything preventing that,
God.
if you check the box, is there anything preventing the selling agent from poaching the client and
Yes,
double
I
ending
would,
the
you would
sale?
still have your ethical rules in place
Okay.
where procuring costs comes in.
Okay.
And did you do it as exclusive or non-exclusive?
That's what I was just about to say.
Right.
Okay, so
This
this is when you're writing,
Everybody's world.
Check the box.
this is the BRBC, right? So what if you're writing a contract with the BRBC, but you don't know yet if your offer is going to be compensated yet?
I know.
That's what, I don't
Yeah, well,
quite get
I think that's my
timing.
I don't
Well,
either.
you're getting the buyer representation agreement before you're writing offers, correct?
Right.
Okay, so this is between you and your buyer. Is the seller gonna see it only, or the listing agent, only if you submit it with your offer? Don't do that.
Oh, there you go.
Submit it after it's requested.
You still want us to submit page 5 of the BRBC with offers?
Yeah.
No, the whole year.
Properly moving forward, no. Just when requested. Because the SPBB now is languages within the RPA, and that little language there that the buyer's affirming that there's a BRBC in place, asking that the seller pay.
But then you cannot submit this after the offer is accepted because you have to negotiate that before you
Yes.
accept your offer.
Submit what?
You would submit it only after.
Only after.
It's proof.
But what are you going to submit with the offer to show how much you're getting paid on it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You don't, that's not your responsibility.
You've just done it, it's now buried in the RPA.
Okay,
SPB went away,
okay, so I don't have to provide it.
you don't have to provide that anymore.
I like that better, actually.
You provide it after.
Until
Right.
requested,
After.
after acceptance.
Yeah.
Shall we?
I like that.
Or if they need it.
Right.
See how easy it is?
How are you guys feeling?
Like
Good, I like that. I like the change so far. Makes it easier. Just check the boxes.
You see, I literally wanted to pull my eyes out, I'm like, shoot, I gotta display all this tomorrow now too, and I'm like, oh god, I have a headache.
This is actually making things easier.
What do they do for us here? Nothing.
Well, just set up a lawsuit, so not part of it.
We're not excited as brokers, we're not excited about the SPBB being put into the RPA with no really understanding about what's in that BRBC that the buyer's asking us to pay. Because we just think it opens up a can of worms for the agent to be, breach of fiduciary duty to the seller. But this is where we're left right now. So we're all learning to navigate and adjust to this new way of doing business. It's not gonna be perfect, it's okay. Take a deep breath, everybody. I highly recommend a meditation practice if you guys aren't doing that in 2025.
The what?
Meditation
practice.
Oh.
Gonies.
AKA.
Is that your answer? I want to say meditate.
Here's the cool thing. You guys are really fortunate that you got I just texted our regional director who I was with earlier today and said there's 64 forms either changing or coming out on the 17th. And she said, what? She's got a mega team in Northern California, 17 agents on a team. Who do you think's teaching them about these changes?
Thank you, BB.
Yeah, so remember how we had the cancellation of listing
Yes.
form if you need a cancellation and listing to
Yeah.
determine
Yeah.
if you're gonna ask for compensation if they go list it with another agent.
Is that gone?
Now, it's still there, but now we have a cancellation of buyer representation.
Oh,
So how many people have come across a buyer that says, oh, I had another agent and I don't know if we signed anything, but I think we signed something, but I never got a copy of it. and I don't know if I have a BRBC. Anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you come to me and say, well, what do I do? I'm like, get a copy of it. They don't have any. Well, I can't advise you. Tell your buyer to go seek an attorney, advise an attorney, because they can be responsible for paying the other broker as well as you. So now we have a form that hopefully the industry will adopt quickly. If they do get out of a relationship with their former agent, because they probably will, as the industry sheds really uneducated agents, not you guys. This cancellation of buyer representation will now outline how that previous BRBC was, and then the cancellation, how it takes effect. And look at it. Is it unilateral, non-exclusive? Unilateral, exclusive, 30 days or fewer. Mutual, cancellation applies to all properties. Cancellation applies to only properties identified in the BRBC. No longer an agent. Compensation must be involved.
What's alternative? What would that be?
E2.
Say it thanks me.
Yeah.
Oh, expenses incurred, a broker to receive a referral fee, no compensation. So there's a multitude of ways to fill this out, depending on how you feel about your BRBC or your PSRA. I love it.
Okay, it says 30 days or fewer. Who decides whether it's going to be fewer or not?
Which part?
B1B.
B1B.
So you said it was 30 days in the other paperwork, but now it's 30 days or fewer. Who decides if it's going to be fewer?
Well, it's based upon what you wrote in your BRBC. Did you change? Remember back here. We changed the date for cancellation. Right here, F.
30 days.
So why would you say less if you don't know what's going to happen?
You've already predetermined it here in the BRBC. They have to match up.
Yeah, those two, F
Okay.
needs to match up.
Why would anybody say less than 30 days
Yeah.
if they don't know what's going to happen?
The cancellation? Why would they say less than 30 days?
Yeah.
Because maybe the buyer will say, well, no, I don't want to be tied to you for 30 days after you've canceled it. I only want to be tied to you for, I think what's fair is 10 days.
Oh, you could make an agreement. You could disagree.
Then you disagree. But you're doing what the buyer wants.
I would do a minimum of 30.
Makes sense?
I do.
It doesn't, does it? And then the easier page on page 2 is easier to understand signature blocks and mutual or unilateral. I swear to God, someone asked, what's the difference between mutual and unilateral on the call yesterday? Please tell me you guys know what that is.
No,
Yes.
just kidding. I'm just joking. I don't do it.
That's a really stupid question, but how, contracts require mutual.
Not the BRBC, it could be unilateral. The BRBC can be canceled unilaterally by the buyer if it's non-exclusive.
If they just try to have some shit.
If it's not exclusive.
Hey.
Who did this? What kind of crazy person did this?
The Forms Committee, which is comprised of real estate agents across the state of California. Definitely.
So if let's say we meet a buyer, they are not sure if they've signed anything with some agent, are we filling out the cancellation for them, or do we say, you've got to call that person and just request a cancellation if you want to work with me?
Okay, that probably is the best standard of practice.
And send it.
So what happens, they drag their feet, they don't get it?
They don't get the house, you can't work it. You can, you'll be volunteering your time.
Sorry.
The buyer could be responsible for paying you as well as them. Because what does the BRBC technically say? Unless they check which box, buyer can't pay.
Right.
But technically it says the buyer's going to pay you even if the seller's not going to. So, and I don't want to be in court chasing after all these buyers to pay us what they owe.
Well, if they're responsible to pay 2 buyer's agents because they screwed up, the
Yeah,
transaction's gonna blow up anyway.
Yeah.
Pay escrow.
And if they don't have money, what are you gonna do?
where does it usually end up would be small claims court, right? Then you gotta decide, oh, do we wanna go the small claims court route? Because
Yes.
have you guys ever, so, I've done the life of a lawsuit, right? It takes forever. And most agents decide, God, this isn't worth it, let the buyer go. That's why sometimes these forms are moot. But they're important to have because then it's important to explain to your buyer and your principal what they mean to make them indebted to you, to work with you. And then this is the cancellation, this is the new form, cancellation of agency confirmation amendment to the purchase agreement. This is if you check box 4, is that it, box 4?
Yeah.
That now the buyer's gonna move forward. Now we have to cancel that agency that we confirmed in the RPA, so we don't get drug into a lawsuit if it gets in suit after it closes escrow. So now you gotta attach this form with your cancellation of buyer representation.
So you submit this with the cancellation of my representation and you're out.
Yeah.
But if you're just canceling it on that one house, refresh my memory, is there a spot just to cancel it on that one property?
You have to do a modification of terms on the BRBC.
So you do a modification of terms, cancel it, and then you submit this. That's a lot of paperwork.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm clear.
But if you did a PSAR on that one property.
PSRA.
Yes.
So
That's a good question.
How many times in our brokerage has this happened where a buyer's agent has had to excuse themselves and forego the commission walk? Is it something we've seen?
Oh, never.
It's not, it's a new,
This
it's
is
a new
new.
possibility. It's never been possible before. Or needed.
It's like an August 17th.
We always had it
But I mean,
negotiated in the contract.
It's been 3 months though, right? August, if you remember.
We've had
We
one
haven't had-
situation I'm aware of where one of our agents did not make what they thought they were gonna make because they didn't do the stuff right, but not totally cut out.
Okay, I'm just curious, thanks.
Don't be the first.
You think I'm really Robert?
I don't think you
I
are.
I was a little surprised
either.
when we got their
You're too
commission
smart.
cut out of that deal because they didn't do it right.
It was an agent that does a lot of volume.
Thank you.
Because us high Ds just charge forward and we don't dot our I's and
There's
cross
new
our
forms?
Yeah, well, then maybe it could be me.
Or you use this form if they cancel after acceptance and the agent moves to another brokerage. So,
That's a lot.
okay, they cleaned up the modification of terms for the BRBC, this form, Chris. Now it can work with the PSRA as well as the TRBC. The TRBC is a tenant, so you'll never use that. But you know the PSRA was not mentioned in the modification of terms?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, now you can use the modification of terms for the PSRA, and we'll get to that one. So it added all the stuff in the red. It also added property type, location, and if you're going to change your BRBC from exclusive to non-exclusive.
Again. Non-exclusive to exclusive.
Yeah, because maybe you got your BRBC initially non-exclusive, which you can do, and now you want to move them into exclusive. Like, hey, I've been working with you for 3 months, and you've done this. Yeah. No, PSRA. All right, John.
You wouldn't use this if you were going from a PSRA to a BRBC though, right? You would just get a BRBC sign.
Probably best that standard practice to do that is better, right? But they changed the PSRA. We'll get to that, but they changed it. Because what's the PSRA good for? Up to 3 houses. No, now you can use it for more.
Oh.
But why would you do a PSRA if you're working with someone past 3 houses and not move them into a BRBC?
Maybe you wanna do 4.
Yeah, what if you wanted to?
Because why? What's the difference? What's the main difference between the PSRA and the BRBC? The main difference.
It's non-exclusive.
It's non-exclusive.
Right. It's just
So you want to move them into an exclusive after you show the little shit 6 houses. And they're wasting your time.
But what if they want to see 4 houses in one day?
You can still use the PSRA. You're just not exclusive with them.
Well, it used to be only 3 houses, now it's more than 3.
They changed it, you can add for more.
The PSRA is basically helpful during an open.
That might be a good thing, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, hey girl.
Okay.
Chill.
So this is a transfer, the buyer representation agreement, let me remember.
I don't like them anymore. Here, Emily,
Oh.
work with them.
Sounds
good.
Okay. Now the PSRA can be used for more than 3 properties. It added a continuation paragraph, and it also incorporated the agency disclosure form, which it didn't initially. Now you have to confirm agency with the
But it's still not
PSRA.
exclusive.
Yeah, but it's still not exclusive.
It's still not.
Yeah. And so back at B3, 5C, continue right to payment for broker-involved properties. The continuation period shall be X days after representation period or in any extension. So you determine those days.
I had no idea you were bilingual.
Why? Why do you say that?
Because right now I'm not understanding. Oh, my brain is dead.
My brain was dead yesterday. Residential listing agreement, they changed this section to talk about the publication of seller's willingness to consider concessions. Again, what are concessions?
Called mutual.
Credits towards.
Credits.
Closing costs.
Closing cost credits and credits towards
Binding.
buy down, stuff like that. It's not broker compensation related. But SDMLS, do they have a concession field?
No.
No. CRMLS, do they? Yes, and it's only a yes or no in the CRMLS platform. You don't put the amount, you just
It's
put
like,
yes.
yes, unless your offer sucks. So it's pointless, why?
But do you remember there was an addendum to the RLA called the MLSA that clarified this? You don't remember? So now they moved that into the RLA, so it makes it easier for you guys, even though you probably didn't read the MLSA. But it does, in the MLSA, the old one clarified what concessions were.
Can you imagine volunteering on the forms committee?
No. God, I
What those
can't
meetings are
even
like?
worse.
God,
Love you, Mark, there's probably a bunch of Mark Mills in the room, right? Yeah, all right. And then it's consistent with our rule, so that's why that change was made, okay? Okay. Now we can breathe. Now they made a few structural changes on the SPQ, so this is more for your seller, but you still need to explain it to them if they ask, well, what is this? So they incorporated the car form WBSA, which is the balcony law. So basically it is the seller's clarifying that there was a report, and then there's also the form WBSA, and they follow and comply with its terms. There it is, right here. So here's the WBSA. So remember, the law was extended for the balcony inspections, but only for apartments. So if you're selling a condo, that condo still has to be inspected by January 1st of this year, and the repair is done within 3 months. What are you guys seeing out there? Because
they're not all done.
They're not all-
Some of them aren't even being done. Like I know of one complex where they did the inspection at the beginning of the year. They just started the repairs because they just assessed my client $30 grand.
Mm-hmm. 30 grand.
30 grand.
Where is this condo?
It is on Machine Gorge.
How old is the building?
It's like I think it's like 70.
70, okay. $30,000 for a condo balcony assessment to repair the balcony.
But that also included the steps. All the steps got torn off, like one whole building and had to be rebuilt, and like it's a mess. And so yeah, so I know that one's not even anywhere close to being done.
So moral of the story, if you're representing a buyer looking for that 500,000 condo, because now they qualify for a low interest, government assisted $125,000 down payment, where are you gonna get a $500,000 condo in San Diego? I don't know. But, if you're making less than 80, you can afford to make the payments, and you got 2 roommates. My point is, you've got to make sure that you know what's going on with the balconies. If it has a balcony, you know what a balcony is, right? You open the door, there's a little ledge out, right? Got to check and make sure that the balconies, that the condo association has all that taken care of. Otherwise, that buyer's going to be in a world of hurt if they get a $30,000 assessment. That is huge. Huge. And thank God we're not living in Florida, because their new laws are taking effect too, January 1st, and it's gonna be horrid for Florida.
Well, Matt, I was just thinking, so obviously to find out about a $30,000 assessment while you're in escrow, it's gonna blow the deal up in most cases. But what if they find out 30 days after you help them buy it? You're gonna get blown up.
Or after they remove contingencies.
Yeah. So what they did on the WBSA is they defined who the authorized inspectors are. Okay? And then we don't sell a lot of places with wells, but if you do, this is what happens is some of these wells have dried up. Why? Because we're in a drought. So what happens is the city or an unincorporated area that they're in brings in this big tank. Now the seller needs to disclose that on the SPQ to say, yeah, we got this city-funded tank because we have water, but it recommends that the buyer do a well inspection still, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? We don't do a lot of places with wells, but we do a few, like maybe 5 or 6 a year. Here's some easier forms. So here's a summary of multiple offers. So for listing agents, if you want an easy form to put all the offers you get, if you're getting multiple offers, you can use this form and present it to your seller so they can analyze which offer they want best. Some people use a spreadsheet, but here's just another form. They said this is just a tool for you to use.
So what's different on that one?
Wait, hold on.
Now we just need multiple offers.
SUM dashing low.
Some more money.
No, but I've always used a version of that, but what's different from that? Because there's always been.
Well, they've added the seller's payment for closing costs, et cetera. And they've added the investigation and insurance. Because remember, they separated insurance under inspection?
Yes. Okay. Yep. Yeah, because
They bought the balcony laws also apply to multifamily?
Yeah, well, apartments, no, they're the ones that got extended. So if you have a building, you own 17 units in San Diego, you don't have to worry until January 1st of 2026.
So you have more time, but yes, it applies.
So for all your shithole buildings, Joe, that you own in San Diego, you got another year, okay?
Oh, I wish.
And like, what about 2 to 4 units, yes? It applies.
Yes.
January 1st this year.
Yeah, okay.
If they're condos to sell.
Got it.
If they're apartments for rent, no.
Got it.
Okay? I know you got lost a couple pages ago.
I got stuck.
She thought she sent me a text message a week ago and didn't.
Estimated compensation for buyer, cost for buyer. So you can give your buyer some scenarios about what they gotta come up with and what their closing costs would be. Okay? Just another tool. The reason, as they say on the different tools, different people process information differently.
No, she's got.
So maybe your buyer's a high C that needs to see stuff visually once it all presented in that type of format.
Cool.
They have one for the seller too.
I'm not listening to
So you can make up one for the seller, or you get your estimated net sheets from your escrow company,
I don't want to.
escrow partners, and they'll present it. Seller counteroffer. Okay, so here's what happened. Who sends out a counteroffer and then it expires before they decide to move forward?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what they've done here is the counteroffer is valid regardless of whether any previous offer or counteroffer expired by its term date. That's good for the buyer because then the seller can counter back to the buyer without having to say, okay, we don't need to extend your offer, we just need to go ahead and just, here's the counteroffer. But what it does not do, if that buyer signs that counteroffer late, it doesn't extend that. Because then what could happen if you send out a multiple counteroffer and a buyer signs it, then and two people sign it, two buyers sign it, it could create a little situation.
Wait, so, I clarify what I heard. So, this does not, so if I send out a counteroffer, it doesn't it will expire in 3 days. But if nobody else has written an offer, and then this buyer's like, yes, I want this, take this counteroffer, and they can sign it, and it's still valid, correct?
The offer is valid for the seller to counter back to.
Oh, the offer, the original.
The offer is valid for the seller to counter back to, but then the buyer then needs to re-sign and send it back, but it still has to be countersigned by the seller to make it valid.
Right.
So it only works one way for the seller.
So this is just a regular offer, not a multiple counteroffer?
Regular offer.
Gotcha.
It's the same concept for changes for the BCO and the SMCO. So in SMCO, you send out 5 counteroffers, and one of them's not accepted until the seller countersigns.
Right.
Same thing with this, though. It's kind of similar to that. The seller still has to countersign and send back the counteroffer that the buyer sent back in. Okay? Does that make sense?
The original seller counter that the buyer had signed, but now the seller has to sign that for it to be effective.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not immediately under
Right.
contract when the
Yes.
buyer signs, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, the seller contingency removal. So if you had an SPRP in place, that's the seller's purchase of replacement property. Who's done a transaction like that recently? Sam and Yenny. So remember how you try and line up everything? And the seller wants to remove the contingency, now they've found the place, but now they need to extend the close of escrow for the sell side because the buy side is gonna be later. So they want things to line up. So what this section does, it basically allows the seller to extend the escrow if removing the finding replacement property doesn't line up. That's a good thing. Because Sam and Yenny just went through this, and they put the home on the market, and they had a place already in escrow, but the home wasn't on the market yet, and they're trying to line up when their sell side was gonna close and the buy side was gonna close. So that's what you're trying to line up when you're doing a sell and then a buy, is those times. Now this allows you to do it. It's a lot easier to move.
Use this over an extension of time addendum.
So basically what this does in the counteroffer, it allows the seller to extend the close of escrow date for the sale of the seller's property for X additional days. So you just do it right here. You don't need the extension and time added.
While avoiding what? Like what was it, I'm trying to, like.
Well, you're trying to line up the close of escrow. Maybe the close of escrow on the replacement is on the 20th, let's say. But you want the close of escrow on what you're selling on the 18th. So you need that money to close on the one on the 20th. So you're trying to extend the times.
So by removing that contingency, you're protecting.
You're extending the amount of time the seller has to close on their, I don't want to say down leg, but their up leg.
Might be a down leg if they're going to.
Get into an escrow, we'll clear it up later.
I don't want that. No, I'm just kidding. I'll take it.
And then, we're actually doing a transaction like this right now. It's an option agreement where the buyer's gonna come in with a lease, and they're gonna lease for 2 years, and then they have an option to buy. So now they put the option to buy in a grid format. This comes out. I don't like these transactions. They're a lot of work. If you do come across that, I know moving into this market, we'll probably see some people ask you about that. Just come see me. Okay, there's AB 2992. That's the law in the state of California. Ingrain this in your memory. Because now that means the buyer brokers agreements are under the purview of the DRE. And the DRE is gearing up for this to make sure that all the agents are operating within the law. And by the way, I just put all this in PDF with links because I know you're going to open it up when you get it and go through all this and read it, right?
Yes.
Because now.
Are you new?
The AB 2992 is now DRE required. And then the NAR MLS was responsible for making sure you had the BRBCs. Just remember, you need to upload all your BRBCs and PSRAs into command, just like you do in escrow. So you get that buyer into escrow, and the mark has to review it. And we have to have it on file. There's a link to all the forms. You can click on that link and go see all of them. I've got a link to the draft of the RLA, the RPA, but again, the real ones will be out next week on the 17th. Best practice. My recommendation, 2025. Practice, 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 practice your buyer presentation and your seller presentations. If you're not skilled at it, you've got to get it there right now. It's hyper competitive now. We want to make sure you guys are the best. Do a consultation on every buyer and email. This is a really good standard of practice. Email a PDF copy of what that buyer or seller is going to sign prior to you filling it out. And in that email, simply state, here is what we will be signing. I want you to read through this, and if you have any questions, please ask me. And then that's an email trail that shows that you did your duty to have them read before they sign. Because what happens whenever there's a lawsuit, they say, you never covered that with me, or how many people have sent out a DocuSign and 5 minutes later you get it back?
Yeah.
Do you think they read it in 5 minutes? No. And that's what their complaint is. I signed it digitally. I was on my phone. So this will cover your booty if you do this as a standard of practice for everybody you're dealing with, but especially with the BRBCs.
When we send them a PDF copy, should we have that 3% in already?
No. You're just sending them a copy of what they're going to be signing.
So there's no definite.
It's not filled out yet. Chris was.
I just want to make a suggestion that's just made my life easier, in particular with the BRBC. Prior to doing any sort of consultation with anybody, I do what Robert suggested. I send a PDF copy, but I also made a Loom video, and it's like 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I go through the entire BRBC. I talk to myself, obviously, and I'm going through what they're going to be signing, and I tell them, I need you to watch this video, and I need you to look at this document. If you have any questions whatsoever during our consultation, that is the time to ask it. Because I'm going to go over it, but we're going to go over it a lot quicker. It's actually saved me a lot of time, and people don't really have too many questions, and if they do, they might ask one or two, and then I just answer their questions, and then it's done. But I made an unlisted YouTube video, so none of you can see it. I just send them the link, and then it makes life much, much easier.
We can see it, you said?
No.
So, here's where we're entering, you guys. We're entering an era where people are looking for guidance from a professional. And if you're going to be the trusted agent and the professional, you've got to show them these are complicated documents that are protecting you. Let me help you understand them. A good thing that well, I won't say it's a good thing, but here's a little story. One of our offices here in San Diego County had their first unrepresented buyer. Buyer comes into the listing agent and says, I want to write an offer. It was a nightmare. And what happened during that offer period, or during that escrow period, the buyer says, because you can't do anything for that buyer, the buyer's like, can't you just DocuSign this? Can't you just put this in a format? The buyer realized, I really need an agent. I don't want to be a full-time agent. The buyer really self-discovered during escrow that this is hard. So doing stuff like this is going to show you're the professional and you're different than all the other agents out there. Again, focus on what you can control, your little world next year, because it'll be fun to be in this little life. Don't forget Mondays with Mark. And that is it. Sorry we went over time, but there was a lot in there.